Hi, I'm Corinne Hunter, CEO and founder of regional charity West Yorkshire ADHD support group.
When and why was West Yorkshire ADHD set up?
So, a little bit of sort of background on me then. I've got four children, three of whom have additional needs. One of them was diagnosed back in about 2016, I think, with ADHD. And it was very clear there wasn't really any statutory support out there for parents, carers of children with ADHD. Now, in 2017, I discovered a small group of people who met once a month at Pinderfield Hospital. They were all adults with ADHD, but they allowed me to join them, and that kind of gave me some level of support. Um, that looked like it was going to disband, so I ended up being asked, will I step in and keep the group running? And that was West Yorkshire ADHD support group as it was back then. Obviously, we've kind of come a long way from then. So from 2018, I started running the group, and this was one meeting a month at Pinderfield Hospital in Wakefield. Over the next couple of years, we expanded. We were supporting a lot more parents and carers as well as adults. We were doing bits with children, like going out on trips with children and things. And it became quite clear quite quickly that we needed to be more official. So in 2021, we registered as a community interest company. Then in 2022, we became a charity. So it's been quite a series of events that's led to us being a charity as we are now. But yeah, the real reason why it was set up initially and why I've sort of moved it from what it was to what it is now on both counts was there just wasn't support out there. If we as people living with this wanted support, we've got to make that ourselves. So that's what we've done.
I would like to ask the structure of your organisation, and as a disabilities activist myself, I'm well aware of the processes that people go through to become KICs, CICs, and charities. So it'd be nice to know, if you're as a charity, are you volunteer based? Do you have paid staff? What's the structure that you follow?
So now that we are a charity, we do have some paid employees. Sort of historically, it was volunteer led. It's now we've got a core team of paid staff. We've got, I would say, the equivalent of four full-time staff members that are paid. We cannot touch the sides with four full-time staff members, though. So we rely very heavily on volunteers. We've got a team of probably 20 to 25 volunteers who we rely really, really heavily on. But I think the key thing to say when we're looking at the structure, though, is paid employees, volunteers, and trustees, because obviously we have to have a trustee board. Everybody has lived experience of ADHD. So some people have ADHD themselves, some have children with ADHD, some fit both categories, but everybody lives it and gets it. And I think for a sort of an organisation like us, that's quite important. We genuinely do understand.
Thank you. That's really important to me as a disability advocate, and it's really important to have that mixture of sort of parents and children and people, that real mixture, because I think neurodivergence impacts everybody slightly differently. So our podcast is going to focus on neurodivergence as an umbrella term, and it just happens to be ADHD Awareness Month. And one of the questions we're going to ask you is if you'd like to plug any events and things that are coming up that you might be doing as a part of ADHD Awareness Month.
I'll be completely honest, we haven't been able to arrange anything for ADHD Awareness Month. We would have loved to, but the demand for support is so much bigger than what we can provide. We had to make the decision, we can't just pause giving support to do some sort of awareness event. So no, we are just carrying on as we are. Our October is going to be very much what our months always are, trying to meet the demand, failing to meet the demand, trying to get more funding so we can meet the demand long term. And trying to make a difference to people, just trying to help people get through day to day, whether it's helping schools support children, whether it's running parenting courses to help parents, putting on the social events that we put on every month. So no, we're not doing anything different for ADHD Awareness Month because we just don't have capacity to do that.
So having had a little nosy at your bio, and as somebody who went to both special and mainstream school myself, I just wanted you to highlight a bit about your background and what kind of support or what the journey is for families and children, young people at the moment?
I feel schools are in a really difficult place. Schools have got to, mainstream schools, they've got 30 kids, they've got to support all of them. So, not knocking schools at all. Schools and school staff are doing the best they can. However, I don't think all our children get the support they need. And that I would say is more a failure of the system. Some of it's lack of understanding. The more education we can get out there, the better. A lot of our kids have got a dual diagnosis of autism and ADHD. They have quite complex needs. To get the support they really need in school, they need an education, health and care plan. It is a long battle to get one. It often ends up with families having to go to tribunal. It's very stressful. All staff that work for the charity, we have caseloads of families and we always have quite a few. Each member of staff has quite a few ongoing cases where we're supporting through EHC tribunals to try and get the right level of support. But it can easily take a year or more to get that support. And obviously that's a year or more that this poor child's struggling and potentially parents are going through quite a stressful time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was at a meeting yesterday. I'm a part of a inclusive education coalition, and the state of sort of education at the moment is quite concerning in the UK at the moment. One of the questions that we were going to ask you was, I've detected that a lot of your staff on the website are women, and one of the podcasts I'm going to be running as a non-binary intersex person is that there seems to be some sort of gender bias in the ways in which people are diagnosed. Do you have any reflections on that?
So, not knocking schools at all. Schools and school staff are doing the best they can. However, I don't think all our children get the support they need. And that I would say is more a failure of the system. Some of it's lack of understanding. The more education we can get out there, the better. A lot of our kids have got a dual diagnosis of autism and ADHD. They have quite complex needs. To get the support they really need in school, they need an education, health and care plan. It is a long battle to get one. It often ends up with families having to go to tribunal. It's very stressful. All staff that work for the charity, we have caseloads of families and we always have quite a few. Each member of staff has quite a few ongoing cases where we're supporting through EHC tribunals to try and get the right level of support. But it can easily take a year or more to get that support. And obviously that's a year or more that this poor child's struggling and potentially parents are going through quite a stressful time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was at a meeting yesterday. I'm a part of a inclusive education coalition, and the state of sort of education at the moment is quite concerning in the UK at the moment. One of the questions that we were going to ask you was, I've detected that a lot of your staff on the website are women, and one of the podcasts I'm going to be running as a non-binary intersex person is that there seems to be some sort of gender bias in the ways in which people are diagnosed. Do you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're correct. There is gender bias. Historically, males were diagnosed with ADHD far more than females. Probably 10 years ago, it was about 10 boys to 1 girl being diagnosed. Current studies are showing boys are 2 to 3 times more likely, so the gap's narrowing. I think the key thing to think about is the way that males and females present. So females often present with more internal symptoms, so a lot more internal hyperactivity. So all the thoughts go around their mind rather than actual physical hyperactivity. Females are often better at masking as well, so presenting as neurotypical, even though that is really, really difficult for them. I think we're certainly seeing an increase in middle-aged women being diagnosed with ADHD now. A lot of them are on the back of their children. So a child is diagnosed, mum or sometimes dad will say, do you know what? This makes sense now. I understand why my life's been so tricky. So that's where some of these diagnoses are coming from. And I think it's important to think about misdiagnoses. So a lot of middle-aged people who are now being diagnosed, again, often women, have been either diagnosed incorrectly with something like anxiety or depression, or have actually ended up with mental health issues because they haven't been correctly diagnosed and supported. So hopefully now that the different presentations are better understood, we will be picking up the girls as well as the boys going forward.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear this from yourself, because I've often struggled with anxiety and depression, and I, as a non-binary person, I've often, it was not that long ago that I learned that the hyperactiveness can be internal, because I have constant mind chatter. It's very busy, my mind. So I think this needs to go out there in sort of ADHD awareness, that the hyperactive part is often picked up in the boys at school, and then often for women and girls it's something that's missed because of that over focus on the physical hyperactiveness. So I'm really glad that you've touched on that, and it's resonates with a lot of things that I've heard from my peers, and my own struggles, really, to understand what is meant by ADHD. So I'm really glad that there's a real understanding that there is a gender bias, and I guess also with the autism diagnosis, that was it's very binary, gender binary, in the ways in which they look at symptoms, because one of our podcasts is going to be about, talking about labels, and sometimes it can be difficult for people to actually get a diagnosis. Given the complex nature of ADHD and the various other acronyms that get used with various letters being dropped out, could you summarize what ADHD is to yourself, or or for your child's perspective, because it's such a broad understanding?
And I think that's the thing. It is so difficult to give you a definitive definition because it's different for everybody. Obviously, if we look at what it stands for, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So, people who struggle with attention, people who are impulsive, people who are hyperactive. But if we sort of break that down and actually think about what that looks like, people can have trouble focusing and they can fidget, which is what everybody thinks. But it manifests in so many different ways, with relationship difficulties, mental health difficulties, difficulties following conversations, forgetting to undertake basic self-care tasks like eating, sleeping, lots of impulsive behaviour, which can lead to addictions, poor choices, emotional difficulties. It's time blindness. I could go on and on. It's really difficult to sort of pin that down, because for every single person with ADHD, they are affected in a different way.
So the final question I have for you is, what message would you like to share with us in this podcast?
So I guess the biggest thing to say is that, ADHD isn't a childhood condition. It's not limited to males. It can affect anybody of any age, any gender, any ethnicity, and it's not immediately visible. It may not be visible at all if you've got somebody who's good at masking. But, whether you're newly diagnosed, whether you're supporting somebody who you suspect may have ADHD, if you've been on the ADHD journey for years, you're not on your own. There's a lot of us out there. We're here to support, find your tribe, find your people. And what we need to do is increase understanding, challenge stereotypes, and make the world more inclusive for everybody who is affected by ADHD. Interestingly, I'm off to do a talk to a group of Cubs later. So quick shout out to 31st Renthorpe Cubs group. And one of the things I'm going to talk to them about is actually people with ADHD can do absolutely fantastic things. And I've got pictures of Simone Biles and Michael Phelps, who are Olympic gold medal winners over and over again, Lionel Messi, Ed Sheeran, Emma Watson. These are people that everybody looks up to. They've all got ADHD. So I guess the big message is it doesn't need to hold you back. Be you, achieve your potential, be happy, and we'll be there for you if you need some help.